Welcome to the Big Kickoff Football Show. Mr. David Bogle, Mr. Neil Dobbs, and myself, Roy Shanahan. And it's been an interesting weekend when it comes to football. Brentford showing what they've got, Aston Villa showing what they've got, and even Arsenal showing what they've got. And I think what we'll do is we'll start with Brentford, Neil. It was a classic. My son sat down with me, Adam, and watched the game, and he was on the edge of his seat watching football, and he's not even a great watcher of football. So this game was and must have been a great game. What was your analysis of it?
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic game. Normally when you watch Liverpool play a team that kind of comes onto them and comes at them and plays with a little less fear, doesn't kind of pack out the back line and sit deep, you expect Liverpool to see it through and outscore them at least. But this was end-to-end stuff. It was absolutely almost ridiculous at times, the way the game ebbed and flowed. Both teams went for it. I kind of respect to Brentford for the way they played. The two lads up front are in off each other. Very, very effective. I know someone mentioned in commentary it was Burnley-esque, but Brentford had a lot more in the locker, I thought, the way they played through the lines. They didn't just rely on the long ball. It was kind of educated, clever ball. They isolated the fullbacks in particular, and then they overloaded.
The best fullback in the world, Neil.
The best, well, if not one of. But in fairness, even Andy Robertson, I thought struggled as well against him, which is rare. But I think Brentford did their homework. They had a game plan. And to be honest with you, it could have been 5-5. Like I think at the end of it, Liverpool getting out there with a point and in the manner that it happened was probably a good point in the end.
Yeah. Tony up front, Dave. We've seen a bit of him in the Championship last year, and we've seen a bit of him for the last couple of years. This year we're getting to see more of him because obviously we watched a little bit more of the Premier League. Mm-hmm. What have you made of him so far?
He's a fine player. Even the goal that was disallowed yesterday, it was a good finish inside the post, and he has it in the locker. I think Mbeumo's been getting more of the chances than Tony, but you can see that he's got a good footballing brain because he's been a great provider for him. Very smart, very clever. But he's not just a big lad who just sits there waiting for big long balls up front. Like he's a solid all rounder. But like I said for the last few weeks, I'd like him to be more the guy who's taking the final touch because he is a goal getter. But without a shadow of a doubt, they're causing awful problems. And as what Neil said, they were very clever with what they did, especially near the end. There was three of them. I think it was 3-on-1 on Trent Alexander-Arnold for one of the goals, where there was only going to be one winner. It doesn't matter. Even if it was Van Dijk, you were probably going to struggle, So they were very, very good and brave. That's what, what's the manager's name? I've completely blanked.
I've completely blanked myself. You can just see him.
Thomas, I think is that. I can't remember. I'm at the blanking. Hank. Did you say Hank?
Frank, isn't it? Frank?
Oh, Thomas Frank, sorry. But he said we were brave, and to be honest, that's what they have to do. And they're a breath of fresh air. They're in the top half of the table. And they're not conceding too much either. They've only conceded 5 in 6 games for a new team that's on the up, and 3 of them were yesterday. So that says it all. Like, as a Liverpool fan, just tiny, very tiny bit, like it was 2 points dropped at 1 or 2 of the chances Liverpool had. But at the same time, you could say the same for Brentford. But for the neutral, a great 50-50 game. But very smart, very clever by Brentford, and you tip your hat to them with the performance.
Dave? What would Brentford have to do to keep this going? We've seen teams before start off flying. We can talk about Norwich a couple of years ago, and there's been other teams, even Blackpool, who when they were up, they had a great start, but dropped away.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough there for them to be able to continue on? Will they need to strengthen up in January just to keep the ball rolling?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. It's the momentum. Can you do it for 38 games? And we're going to probably bring that up a couple of times. And excitingly, a game that happened today, we're going to bring that up again. But that's the whole point. I think they have something about them. They're not obviously they have this Moneyball thing in the background, and they obviously must put a lot of care and attention into set pieces and to what they do, and they're very effective in that. So I'd say they'll have a lot of angles covered, but it's momentum as well. If you lose 1 or 2, well, not one, if you lose 2 or 3 in a row, there's all of a sudden that belief that they're gathering up now just completely gets wasted, and that's when it's really going to test, because Brentford will get a spell where they've a United away and probably Chelsea at home the next week. They'll have, everyone has that little awkward run, And once they get through that, will they be able to gather the momentum again? And that's how they get sucked back down again, you know. But listen, they're on a great run at the moment. Get as much points as you can. This guy seems to have, he's buzzing. Even the way he was looking at, even when he was looking at Klopp when Liverpool missed a chance near the end, and he's just loving it at the moment. And even, as I said, his interview afterwards. So as long may it continue for them. But that's when the chips come down and they lose 2 or 3 in a row, if they can kind of just burst that bubble and get back on the horse again, that's when that's going to test their mettle.
Neil, what part of the game will Liverpool be disappointed in?
Do you know what it was? I watched the highlights back again today just for the type of goals that they conceded, and I was saying to the young lad, it's unusual to see with Van Dijk and Matip, Liverpool to concede that type of goal. They were kind of scrappy, a little bit scuffy. You know, you let 3 lads overload you. You know, Trent Alexander was on his arse, I think, twice. He got in the way of Matip on one of them. The header that went by, remember when it flicked up off the goalkeeper and then your man headed it in past Van Dijk. You're not accustomed to seeing Liverpool get dragged into that standard of goal. But yeah, that threat was there all night. So I don't think you're going to be playing that type of opposition all the time in the manner in which they played. But for Liverpool, they need to get a little bit more mighty. Like you'd always be ready for that the next time around, almost the way you prepare for your Burnleys and that type of team. That type of team. Maybe have Fabinho dropping a bit deeper, just a little bit more cover in particular for the fullbacks. They'll have to figure out how to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. They were just kind of scuffy, scrappy goals. But again, as David said, they could have conceded more. So that wasn't just the story. But for Liverpool, they have to be up for that kind of challenge, that it's a different way of defending against different types of opposition. Because even Van Dijk lost a couple of headers, which you were almost kind of going, wow, he was beaten in the air there, it's just unusual when it happens. It's just an unusual thing. But they just need to be a little bit more clinical in clearing their lines and getting up the field. Simple as that.
Manchester City beat Chelsea 1-0. Dave, what does this tell us?
Yeah, it's very ominous in the sense that Chelsea were becoming the team that kind of had City's card when Tuchel came in, and you're thinking, because you know the way there's always somebody that has a voodoo, because you see the famous clip when he's about to go out against Everton and he's already talking about Liverpool on the Wednesday in the Champions League because he's worried about them, you know. And I was getting that feeling, is this going to be it with Chelsea? But they came out with the bit between their teeth and really got at Chelsea. Chelsea didn't really want to commit too much, a bit shaky in the first half, which is very surprising considering at home. But a massive statement yesterday, and they were the dominant side. Grealish probably could have got a goal to cap off the performance. He stepped up a little bit more than he has since he first came in. Like, yes, he hasn't been shrinking away, but he definitely stepped up a little bit yesterday to say, right, this is the big game. I need to kind of show me price tag is worth it now in this game, and he definitely shone. But yeah, they were definitely the forward-thinking team who definitely pressed the game and deserved the win.
Yeah. Neil, we've given so much praise to Chelsea. They come up against City. You think that they were ready-made to put a Manchester City side under pressure, but it was vice versa. And Pep has to get congratulated on forcing Chelsea back. They never really looked an attacking threat.
Yeah, I think Chelsea were they were forced into a change. I think they were missing Mount and they were missing Pulisic, and they're your kind of main guys that are going to break when you're breaking up the City attack and you're trying to push them back and get at the back line and make them just worry a little bit that you can get them going the other direction. They didn't really have that yesterday. They had Kante, Jorginho, and Kovacic in the middle, and I just don't think they were dynamic enough. Even the highlights when I watch them back again today, I noticed that Kante was trying to be that guy to break the line from the defensive two to get in behind Lukaku, but he was dispossessed once or twice because he was kind of on his own. There was only really him and Lukaku trying to make a break. So I don't think that helped Chelsea. Listening to Tuchel after the game, he did I thought was a brilliant interview where he kind of said, we didn't have the courage and the belief that we could play short, but then we also didn't have the courage and belief to play long, as if they didn't believe in themselves enough. So City chased them in their first third. They chased them in 5s and 6s. They left themselves 1v1 at the back, pretty much Diaz versus Lukaku, and they were quite comfortable to do it because Chelsea just could not get out of their back line. And you're not used to seeing Chelsea get pushed in their first third in particular, and they just looked uncomfortable. I was looking at what's his name, the Reece James and Alonso. You were looking for one of them maybe to get out of the back line a few times, and they just couldn't. They were just pinned in and pinned in. So City went back to an old formula of Pep's, which is chase. Chase and chase. They chased high, they pressed in fives, and just the amount of mistakes was unbelievable out of Chelsea. So fair play to City in the manner that they set out. It was very impressive.
And Neil, when you look at the Chelsea side, they went with a formation 3-5-2, away from their normal 4-3-3. Did that really hinder them more so because James Alonso got pinned back more, and instead of being an attacking formation, it turned out to be more of a defensive formation and just didn't really work for them?
No, it didn't work. And I think, again, Tuchel took a little bit of slack over that at the end. He said himself, listen, I hold my hand up. Maybe I didn't get it right today. Now, hindsight is great and all that, but Chelsea's kind of success the last time against City was because they sat and they soaked up the first 30 minutes. We always say here in the show, if you keep City scoreless, they kind of not run out of ideas, but an element of frustration gets in there because they're very high octane for the first 30 minutes. But they didn't do it yesterday. Instead, what they ended up doing is they just got pinned in, and then they had no outlet. You had Werner on one side and kind of Lukaku on the other, and there was no relief for them in any period of the game. And it was only when City scored, did a little bit of a patch towards the end, but City kind of held them at an arm's length, played very, very clever, possession-based game. And I think, Chelsea just got it wrong. They missed Mount, they missed Pulisic, they missed someone as in the hole, in the 9, to get in behind the striker and cause a little bit of havoc. And as I said, Kante, I felt, tried to do a little bit of that, but it just wasn't effective at all. He's not as effective as that type of player.
Yeah. I'm not sure if, I think, Dave, I'm going to ask you this question, actually, because Neil's after sort of just about touching on it there. Jorginho or Kante, can the two of them play together?
Yeah, it's a similar problem.
You have to make a decision there.
Yeah, possibly, especially especially if you're going to go with 3 at the back and 10 technically have 2 fullbacks as well to make a 5 when I presume it's to be a 5 when we're defending against the City. So why do you need another 2 in on top of you as well to make a 7? So you've literally got Lukaku, Werner, and whoever the another is, Kovacic. You know, you're not asking for much. You're asking a lot of the fullbacks, as he said, because the 2 boys, as much as Kante tries to adapt across the 3 central midfield positions, we all know what he's the absolute best at, and that's being the holding midfielder who breaks everything down and comes from deep. Jorginho should be the one in the middle, if at all. But I think it's easy enough for him to be a debate between one or the other, because I don't believe in 2 sitters when you have 3 centre halves. You know, that's the whole point of having 2 sitters. If you're going to go the 4-3-3 and you're going to get the 2 boys to bob on a bit like what, say, Liverpool do or other sides do. But the 2 there with a back 3, which turns into a back 5, it's a bit of overkill.
Yeah, I'll stay with you, Dave. Jesus now is starting to get his shooting boots on. Is that the kind of thing that they need? We were talking about the striker element before, not playing with false 9, I suppose, playing with. He's come in and he's looked like he's been a focal point and got goals. This is a crucial one, obviously.
Massive. And to be honest, Jesus has a decent record. It's just he was unfortunately behind the legend that was Aguero, and he was always going to play second fiddle. And maybe he has to kind of reprove himself to Guardiola. And I don't think he's done himself any harm. He was impressive when he put him out on right wing a couple of weeks ago, where he was doing the basics and doing the basics well. And then obviously he was playing a bit more through the middle yesterday. But the guy knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. Can he do it 20, 25 times a season? We don't know, because he's never really had the full 38 games. But he's not doing himself any harm, that's for sure. But he's definitely kind of, wherever he was in the charts with Guardiola, he's certainly going up them with everything that he's been doing with him. He seems to be putting a lot of effort in. And even in an interview a couple of weeks ago, Guardiola waxed lyrical about him to say he was a great team player. He always gives it everything, no matter what I ask him to do or where I ask him to go. So he's definitely doing himself. Well, put it this way, I don't think they'll be rushing down to North London in January if he keeps doing what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't think so either, to tell you the truth, the way things are going. Neil, our weekly slot, Ollie in, Ollie out. Where are we this week?
Yeah, he's getting a bit of slack now, isn't he? It's I don't know what it is, right? Look, when you're at that level and you're just so much scrutiny on you. I was saying last week normally when he gets a bad result like the young boys result, he generally bounces back, but he bounces back in style, and he has done that in the last few years. Sometimes you thought literally his days were numbered and he had a week left in the job, and then all of a sudden, he pulls this Paris Saint-Germain away result out of nowhere. I think that was the result yesterday that hurt because the commentator kept mentioning it. Aston Villa are winning at Old Trafford. In other words, what the hell is going on here?
He said it twice.
This is rare. Yeah. It was. I think that was a game that they felt they could bounce back in. Villa are a decent side. They push you. They'll ask questions, but I think beforehand United would have thought they had enough in the locker to see him out. So that's a bit disappointing in the manner that it was. In the fact that I thought Villa inflicted a lot of damage on United and really went for that win. There was a belief of a team in Old Trafford that you don't often see, and credit to Villa for the way they played, because they played with a team that felt that result was there for the taking. And then you had the little sideshow of the penalty and the goalkeeper and asking Ronaldo to take the penalty and stuff like that. There was a brilliant little bit of banter around that as well, which made it an interesting watch.
Yeah. Dave, I suppose where are United going wrong at the moment?
Well, the referees, if Ollie if Ollie, if you have to believe everything Ollie says, it's just the referees. He's not getting the right decisions. The guy's getting
that's
whiny.
what I heard straight after the game, Dave. The minute
he's getting
he
very
asked
whiny
about the game, he had 2 excuses straight off.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like excuses. Now, when you look at the goal, it's any other time you would be given offside for it because he's blocking the line of the keeper, or he's in front of the keeper, and he's in obstruction. So, but either way, Manchester United shouldn't be looking at that kind of thing to get them through a game, and they had a penalty where they could have rescued it for themselves. But there's something not quite there with Manchester United. They're out of the League Cup. They've lost their Champions League game. It's their first league game to lose. They just they're not.
The honeymoon period is over.
And think this is a fluid team. This is a team that's going to threaten.
Yeah.
So
I said it a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't really heard because obviously the great debut he had. But it's going to take a while to bed this in. This guy is a superstar where a lot of people are going to look up to him and try and play through him, which I think is wrong. They should just trust him to be where he's supposed to be and don't overdo it. It's very simple in the sense that there's the pressure's on this year to be as good as the other 3, and they mightn't be. And now they're panicking a little bit. There definitely seems to be a tightening up. Look at the way Fernandes took that penalty yesterday. He just snatched at it. He didn't even do his usual little step, his routine, and he missed it. And it's all on him. Who cares? All blame has to go on him. He changed his style and he missed it. Why did he do it? Why did he take the penalty like he did? They tightened up a little bit. The pressure's on a little bit, but they just need to relax and find a way. It's going to be a bedding in period. I think they're good enough for top 4 this year, but there's going to be a bit of a bedding period to really suss out how they're going to play. The first game, everything's going to be fantastic. He's got 2 goals. United are back. Here's the thing: we don't watch Ronaldo week in, week out when he's over in Italy. Anyone who does, fair play to you. He doesn't score every week. He will. There will be a game where he doesn't score, and that's okay because he's human. But I think everyone thought he's coming in every game. He's going to at least get a goal, and everything's great. Now reality's kicked in. He needs a supporting cast, and they need to step up now. Greenwood played well yesterday. Still very impressed with him. Fernandes has quietened down. He got a hat-trick in the first game. Now he's got quiet. I've said it before, lads, and I'm not messing. Others get stifled. I don't think it's Ronaldo's fault, or I don't think it's Ronaldo doing it on purpose, but others get stifled, or others kind of go into the shadows. They need to find a way of kind of settling down now and getting into the rhythm. Same with their midfield. How are they going to do it? Are they going to have 2 holders? Are they going to have the 1 holder? I think there's a bit of a one too many in there now. I think having Pogba, Fernandes, and Ronaldo, I think there's 3 liabilities for the defensive setup. You're down to 8 men, in my opinion. This is where Ollie's going to have to step up, and instead he's moaning about Jurgen Klopp, because that's who he was talking about on Friday. Jurgen moaned. He was nothing short of getting the white piece of paper like Rafa and talking about facts. Klopp sat in his office, went, awesome. Because if it was the other way around and Fergie did it, everyone would be saying it was psychological genius, and he's already getting rattled. So he needs to step up and earn his crust now because he is in trouble.
Well, I'll give them one thing. They got a penalty, so maybe it worked in hindsight. But Colin Neal says he couldn't put two passes together. Ollie hasn't got a clue. Fred and McTominay doesn't work. No shape, no width, no plan B. Shocking. This is what we see a lot now with Manchester United fans. There's a big it's a big 50-50 divide, if you want to call it that. It's not a minority who want them out, and it's not a majority who want them out. They kind of people have their thoughts, and they're set in stone now. And some of them really wanted to work badly, and some of them are looking at it and going, I just cannot see where it's going. So Neil, when you look at it from your point of view, how do you see it?
So I think I've definitely been consistent enough in my thinking on this show when I've said about United's two holding mids. So if you contrast them to the likes of Chelsea, Chelsea's holding mids are ball-playing holding mids. They can dictate a tempo of a game. Jorginho dictates the tempo of Chelsea's game. He's a passing machine. Fred and McTominay, to me, are two flavours that are exactly alike. You don't have the one that's going to grab the game by the scruff and really make things tick over. And they've been like that a long time. But I think Solskjaer is happy in the way that he has them there and the way that he sets them up. He rarely switches in Pogba into that role anymore. So that's gone. So what's his other alternative is either to buy someone else in that's better or have one of them as a holding mid. I don't think he has the trust in his backline last year. Maybe now with Varane this year, that might change things a little bit. But I don't think he had the trust last year to play as one holding mid. But my biggest criticism of United is that they don't have a ball playing CDM and you're playing with two of them, which means immediately you're not dominating possession. Immediately you're allowing opposition more chances. You look at City, you look at Liverpool, there is 65, 68% possession of every game, higher against the lower teams, the bottom six teams, say. But possession is key. Possession means you're limiting the opposition to fewer chances. You're fresher, you're keeping possession better, and the game is just in your control more often than not. I just think Man United give up too many chances because they give away possession too cheaply. I also think Pogba playing, they still don't know what his best position is. They're shipping him out wide left now, maybe till Rashford comes back. But as Dave said there, they actually have a problem now. It's like Portugal national team. Can you fit all these guys, your Greenwoods, your Fernandes, your Ronaldos, and your Pogba all into the same team when they don't put in the proper shift going back towards their own goal?
You've got Cavani getting fit as well now.
And you've Cavani asking
he's going to be knocking on that door going, screw you, pal. I did it last year. I could do it again. Put me in. Rashford's coming back. We move on from Martial. But, like, you know, if you're going to play the three of them, Fernandes, Ronaldo, and one of the two has to go. There is no shape. Exactly what Colin said. There is no shape. So either one of them has to go or one of the central defender, central defensive midfielders has to go.
Is it a case, Dave? Because for me, I don't see Pogba being able to play. I think with the backline that United have, I don't think Varane has played as well as people have said. I think in one-on-one situations, I think he's been beaten in 2 or 3 games now where a little bit easy for my liking. Still find his feet, so we won't go too hard on him. But I still think 2 sitting midfielders, what he has, and you can only deal with what he has because you can't get anyone in now. So that's it. That's what they have. Yeah. I still think McTominay and Matic are balanced, right footer, left footer. I think Matic is a good range of passing. I don't think Fred has the range of passing. I think McTominay can get forward and back. I think that works better. I do think they've been putting Pogba out left. I'm not unhappy with that because Rashford isn't there. Sancho is a right winger. That's just it. So play him right wing or don't play him at all. But would you be in agreement to say that he has to pick either Pogba or Fernandes?
100% only one of them if he's keeping 2 central defensive midfielders. If he's
only keeping one, works otherwise though.
No, and it's because when they don't have the ball, and as Neil said, possession is key. Like, I'm not criticizing the guy because the guy can do whatever he wants in Ronaldo. But let's face it, defensively, he's not going to give you a hell of a lot. People, like, let's be honest, even the goal that they scored, he comes back for corners. He stood there and did nothing, by the way. I watched it 2 or 3 times. He stood in a pocket and was nowhere near the danger. So how well he defends corners is up for debate for me. But the fact that he's down there is not good enough. If he's in the middle of them winning headers, I'll take it back. But I only seen one yesterday and he just stood there looking pretty near the back where there was no danger. And then you've got Pogba, who's not known for being defensive. And then Bruno, when he's tick, he'll run around like a mad joke and chase everything. But when the chips are down, you don't even notice he's on the pitch. So there's 3 of your 8 or 10 midfielders who are not 10 midfielders, 3 or 10 outfielders who are not going to give you a hell of a lot defensively. So it's a big ask, and they're right down the middle. They're right down the spine. So if you're playing 2 central defensive midfielders, one of them's got to go. It's as simple as that for me.
Neil, I'll finish with you on that one. When you're a Liverpool fan, when you look at Pep, you look at Tuchel, and you look at Solskjaer, with their teams, does Solskjaer and his team worry you as much as the other two?
No. So at the end of the day, right, you're saying there people are split 50-50. I guarantee you, rival fans, and I'd say Dave might agree with me on this one. I'm delighted Solskjaer's in that job. Absolutely delighted, because he doesn't worry me like a Tuchel going in there and what he's done to Chelsea. That would worry me, that style of manager going into Man United, doesn't care about reputations, doesn't care about anything else. He would have Pogba sorted or else on the bench, like he's done with a couple at Chelsea at the moment. He would worry me as a Man United manager, big time. A Hansi Flick, one of these up-and-coming guys that are either established or up-and-coming. But Chelsea did the business and got in Tuchel. Man United is stuck now by Solskjaer. And I think the Solskjaer experiment to me is overran now. It's done. I don't see where they're going to make that next jump. And yeah, for Man United being one of the biggest clubs in the world, the most resources, they can more or less buy anybody or would be associated with any other player. I find it strange that they've stuck with a manager that to me is not top drawer.
Yeah. Do you know the way watch a game, no matter who they are, you kind of go, oh, I'd hate to go into their dressing room now. I don't get that with United. I'd be like, they get to go in there, have a shower, cut their gear on, see you Monday. That's the feeling I get. I don't think it's quite like that. Now, if people say, oh, he's got a mean streak, no, I don't buy it. Like, you see Pep, you see Tuchel, you see Klopp, you see other managers, they've got it. You know they've got it, and you know the players get it. And the way they play sometimes is because they know they're going to get it. And United was an iron fist, lads. Like 1 or 2 players in their interviews before said, we wanted to win so bad because we did not want dare go back into that dressing room for Ferguson to be sitting there waiting for them. With Solskjaer, I'll never buy it. I don't think it's there. And if it is, I think it's for show. Like a lot of what he says in his interviews, he ticks boxes. He's a media savvy, in my opinion. He says some of the nice things, but I don't buy a lot of it.
Okay, we'll leave that one there. It's not looking good for Solskjaer in the near future. Okay, Dave.
Of course he will.
Leeds 1, West Ham 2, and a winner by Antonio. And Neil wanted to know, are you going to give him any credit whatsoever?
Of course you give him credit.
Is he a centre forward now, and is he someone that West Ham now need to keep and they're going to rely on, I suppose?
Well, yeah, there's no one else. He's got 6 and 6, or is it 5? No, he's 5 and 5. So he's halfway to his best ever total of 10. So he should smash it. And if he does, I'll give him a thumbs up. But if he gets 20, I'll give him 2 thumbs up. So that's as good as you're going to get from me. I'm not going to change my opinion straight away. The guy has played 6 or 7 seasons in the Premier League and got 10. Let that sit there. He took his goal brilliantly yesterday. He's a funny lad with massive teeth, like a lot of new footballers nowadays. Good luck to him. But if he can get 15 to 20 this year, he's in that bracket of one of the top strikers in the Premier League. But, he can disappear for a month or 2 as well. Don't forget that. He scores in clumps. This could be one of them. But to be honest, I've nothing against him. It's just he's just a striker in the Premier League at the moment until he gets to that height. Because I'm sorry.
When you look at him, he's come from being a winger in a team that wasn't really great. And now the team has progressed. Absolutely. Nearly in alignment with him going into that centre forward role, and he's only learning the role, really.
Yeah, but he's 30 as well, so he's not going to go to the next stratosphere. He's improving, and that's fantastic, but his limit's coming soon. And I don't want to be negative, but there's nothing against West Ham. They're in such a good vein of form, a very well-balanced side with a bit of everything. Souček made a mistake yesterday, and then he quickly rectified it. That's fantastic attitude. You can't buy that. And even Rice, for whatever we may or may not think of him, he's really kind of stepping up. He's kind of starting to step up and be the main man and driving force on that side as best as he can. And here's the sad thing is they missed him when he was gone, and he came back with a bang yesterday. West Ham have a nice little rhythm going, and last year wasn't a flash in the pan now, which is great to see.
Yeah. Okay. We won't get into a debate on that, Neil. We'll just have to take that one on. All right. In all fairness, he's doing the business for them at the moment.
Yeah.
And
he's
plus Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer used my stats and figures last night. I was delighted to see.
But in fairness, when he's doing the business more than any other, I suppose, West Ham striker has in recent years, which is probably the reason why he got the job there in the first place. So, yeah, so far so good for him. And as Dave said, if he wants to be a top striker, he has to be hitting the teens, mid to high teens, and that 20 mark. So we'll all agree on that one. Again, we're going to go to Leeds, Neil. Though it's a little worrying all the time. We mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't been getting any better.
No, there was analysis done for Match of the Day last night, which was showing the Leeds left back playing right back. I don't know where he was playing. Bowen dropped up in the left back position, and there was nobody near him. Leeds were committing 8 men forward in attack. They were allowing themselves to be countered attacked. Now, when you watch the game as a full, and I got about 70 minutes of it, Leeds were actually really good, and they probably should have put the game to bed a lot earlier than that. They should have put West Ham away. They cut West Ham open quite a lot. Little unlucky on some of the finishing. They paid the price though at the end. As I say, Antonio's in great run of form, and that's why he got the goal. But Leeds played into their hands in the last few minutes by chasing and leaving themselves open and vulnerable. We said it on the show many times about Calvin Phillips. He's left by himself to anchor the midfield. They lost the ball going forward. 50-yard ball over the top of them, and next thing you know, West Ham are all over them 3v1 or 3v2, whatever it was. So they'll be kicking themselves, Leeds, because I think they did enough to win that game or get a result out of it. But I would be very worried that teams now are having that. They're kind of saying to themselves, kind of like the Liverpool scenario with in their game, the 3-3 game, people are going at Leeds because they know Leeds are going to give up chances. They're exploiting them because they're more clinical than them. And they're in a little spot of bother at the moment now. It's that kind of, I don't want to say second season syndrome, but, you know, maybe they're being sussed. Maybe they're running out of the confidence to play the way they're playing. And they don't ever change their tactics. They absolutely don't. So there's a stubbornness there, but it would be worrying if I was a Leeds fan sitting there thinking, where's their next win going to come from?
Yeah, it was interesting. Just sorry, Roy, just what Neil said there when they were talking about the left back and right back. Like they do a lot of one-on-one defending, and you kind of stick with your man, almost like old school GAA, where that's your man wherever he goes on the pitch, and that's why they were getting caught out a few times. But Antonio's goal was literally the rubber stamp on how to get Leeds is just suck them in, somehow get out of that press, and then take the gamble of leaving a guy or two up front, and they sucker punched them. But I think with all these clubs now have video analysis guys and stuff like that. You won't get a couple of years. You'll get maybe a season, and they'll suss you out, and they'll have you down to a T. And here's what we're going to do to steamroll over them. And Leeds, no disrespect to them, but the players they have are probably where they should be. If you know what I mean. Last year it was the way they played that I think got them up there, but now the quality of player and being sussed out. Unfortunately, I think they're down more realistically where they should be.
Yeah. Neil, Burnley next week they'll be looking forward to next week. They have a handy one against Norwich, 3 points in the bag, and Everton got those 3 points this week. We'll probably have this running joke for the whole season, but unfortunately, it's not a joke for Norwich. They're championship material. Yeah,
they're so poor. Do you know what it is, Roy? When you look at the Norwich team, they're still playing the same way with almost the same personnel. They probably lost one or two of their better players anyway, but they're playing true to Pukki, who's up front. They're trying to kind of get him in there to nick a goal. The problem is Norwich are conceding 2 and 3 goals in every game, and they're never going to outscore a team by playing like that. I don't want to say there's an element of naivety about it, but there's an element of acceptance. Like Daniel Farke's job is never under threat because they come up with low expectation. They don't strengthen the side. They sell their marquee player every year, and then they just repeat and rinse and repeat. And it's kind of, it must be disappointing for them at this stage of the season to think we're already gone. I know we joke about it, but they're in. There's no way, not a chance in hell you can see them pulling away from this. They're going to be waiting a long time to get any sort of results the way they're playing, and they just don't have the quality. There's nothing else to say about them.
What's the sign? Was it the sign of madness is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different
Rinse and
outcome?
repeat.
You know.
Yeah.
But you do feel for them. If you're a Norwich fan now and you're coming, you must have no expectation from the pre-season. It's not like they just don't have that ambition. They take their balloon payment when they get out to the Championship.
Yeah.
They perform brilliant in the Championship. They come back up, but they never strengthen. So, we were saying there about Brentford and the Moneyball scenario. Norwich need to find an answer to how they're going to do it long term and try and cling on for even one season in the Premier League. And that could be the making of them. Or whoever's at the peak of that club needs to have a think about their strategy, because one season out of two doing well must drive you mad from a fan base view.
Yeah, and when you look at it, Dave, when you look at Norwich, Newcastle must be in a similar position. It's as a fan, it must be you're in a situation that you're in year on year. Norwich are going up, they're going down, they're going up, they're going down. Fans know they don't have a chance. But with Newcastle, they know that they don't have a chance of pushing even into the top half of the division. But in all fairness, is Steve Bruce doing a good job, because there's not a lot to work with, but the players that he gets in, you look at Callum Wilson has done a decent job. Sam Maximin has done a decent job. These are all they're sporadic boys. And again, this year with Willock, is it those kind of boys that have just kind of kept them in there in that division?
Just enough, yeah. Like it to be honest, it'd be harder to be a Newcastle fan, because it could be a case of where we could be. That the owner obviously wants to let them go. He's not putting anything in to kind of improve them. He's just doing enough to keep them in there to make them pretty for any buyers. Do you know what I mean? So it's seriously frustrating. But there's Steve Bruce who's sticking it out, and credit to him, considering like where is he going to go while Mike Ashley is still there. But he's been clever with what he's done. Sam Maximin is a find and a half. I'd be shocked if he's there at the end of the season. If Ashley's still there, Willock obviously is yet to kind of get that form back again, but he looked half decent yesterday. He looks like it's there, but it's just not quite clicked in goals. You hope for the fans, the ever suffering fans, that they do stay up again. Eventually they get sold, but the longer he stays, the inevitable will happen, whether it be this season or next. But as long as he's there, they will go down if he sticks around.
Is it fair to say, Neil, you got Norwich, you've got Newcastle, Watford, who played Newcastle, more than likely will be down there struggling with them?
Yeah, I think so. They're the likely candidates. Leeds, if they don't pull out, are going to get caught up in that. Burnley, I think we're seeing a pattern now. We were saying last week there's so few wins out of like the bottom 6 teams over like 40 games, with something like 1 win out of 40 games, which it just shows they're all in good company at the moment. So there's no one other than Norwich being maybe totally lost cause. But maybe the next 2 to 3 games where they begin to play each other, they become big games, because that can get you, relax the mind. If you get that win, a bit like Arsenal, you get 1 or 2 wins, all of a sudden you pull away and you're not thinking about the relegation. But there's some of them that are just so used to it now at this stage. The likes of Newcastle, it's an acceptance. But them teams need to get that win, get the points on the board, because it's a long season when you're in that bottom 3 the whole time. And generally, it's harder to get out. You get sucked in, fair enough, but it's harder to get out when you're there week after week and you feel you're being left behind. So they're just fortunate they're in good company of 5 or 6 teams at the moment that haven't really caught light at the minute.
Yeah. We talked about Leicester, Dave, last week. We talked about Jamie Vardy. He was so up for it yesterday. He scored in his own goal.
Yeah, he's got a hat-trick.
2 goals to get a point, and really and truly, he looked like the old Vardy again.
Yeah, he was really kind of hanging on the line, waiting for that butted through ball, and they played to his strengths yesterday, and like that's what he does, and what he does better than anyone else. And the goal he got was stereotypical, straight through the middle, and then a quick finish. The keeper doesn't even get a chance to settle, and that's what he is. And if you want to get goals out of him, that's what you have to do. He's not necessarily somebody who's always going to be getting up and winning headers in the box or kind of doing stuff all on his own. He is very much that final touch striker. I'll be there and I'll put it away, but you provide for me. And yesterday, they kind of, whatever way Burnley were playing and were quite high up and just played into his strengths, that he was literally hanging it, and you could see it 3 or 4 times that didn't happen. He didn't score from, but he was there all the time, and they didn't tweak and turn it around, but they literally played right into him. You do that with any striker of any class, they punish you, and it was just too Vardy-esque as usual.
And can you see it, Neil, with Leicester? Again, that's another couple of points dropped. They're in the bottom half still of the table. Can you see this Leicester team getting back to the form that they had from last year? Is there any signs of that? Of course, as Dave said there, Burnley had a high line. Not everyone's going to play a high line against them. Or is this something where West Ham might just sneak into their position again and consolidate their Europa League next year, albeit if they can keep injuries away?
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost, Leicester probably overachieved the last 2 seasons by nearly getting the Champions League. Like, they were literally within a hair's breadth last season. And maybe this is the season where they might struggle to keep up there. It'll be a good fight between the likes of them, West Ham, that type. I think Leicester have enough in the tank. I think they're playing a very settled system. They've been playing the same way now under Brendan Rodgers for a few years. He brings in the odd bit of personnel. I think the big difference this year is they went with Vestergaard, didn't they? And they brought out Johnny Evans. And their backline doesn't seem as settled, whereas last season he had a couple of big fines and fullbacks and guys that you'd never heard of, and all of a sudden come in, 20 million, 25 million, and they were outstanding. So I think that's hurt them this year for the start. That's why they seem to be losing probably more games than they were. Like, normally for Leicester, 2 Vardy goals would be enough, because they do play a counter-attacking sit deep style. But normally 2 goals from Vardy would be enough to secure 3 points. So that's kind of where the crux lies. They need to tighten up in the back line, stop conceding them type of goals. So Untitled is having a nightmare season. Every time I see him play, he's giving up cheap goals, even for Turkey. So maybe that's the area they need to tighten. But I think Brendan Rodgers is a good system. I think he's trusting the players and the way they play. And if they keep Vardy fit, I think they'll be okay. They'll be thereabouts 5th, 6th.
Okay. Dave, the team that I was worried about was Southampton. They actually performed really, really well today. They got a defeat still, no matter what way you look at it. Wolves, the Jimenez goal was an excellent goal, an excellent finish. They had 57% possession. Southampton, 18 shots to 5 for Wolves. So caught in the counter-attack. But there was a little bit of a sign there that I hadn't seen before from Southampton. They've got a couple of little results here and there. But again, I still see them down the pecking order, as in, with the Watfords and the likes of that. Did today change your mind in any way, or is it something that
not just yet? Like, it's hard to kind of say after defeat, and yourself, lads, when we watch this game of ours for years, like, it's very hard to get out of that mess once you're in there. And you had to get a win 6 matches now. Every team, no matter where, even the likes of Arsenal after 3 matches would have been panicking, just get any bloody win just to get going. And of course, they got Norwich in their 4th game. And now look at the difference. The next game is going to be even tighter and tenser to get that win, because all of a sudden you're in the relegation fight, which Southampton certainly wouldn't want to be in. So it's a very hard thing to get a 6 in now. You're getting into the business end of it now. It's not kind of like where you're feeling yourself and eventually be up there. You're kind of in there now, whether you like it or not, in another couple of games. So it's going to get very tight. Goals are going to be a big problem, I think, maybe there. Shea Adams, I'm not overly convinced about. Gineppo, Redmond, El Yanusi, like, they don't kind of get me going in that sense. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but the league table, if it started in January, I think they'd be bottom or second from bottom. Like, they really poor form. Like, they were flying it in the first half of last season, then just spiraled. So they brought that form into this year. So yes, they've 1 or 2 promising players who always kind of come to the fore. And then your man Alan Armstrong as well is yet to kind of catch fire as well. It's just not sure just yet. But like, Hasenhüttl, obviously, you will want to do the right. Like, he's a guy that has the bit between his teeth, but it's just, yourself, another game or 2, and all of a sudden you're in there whether you like it or not, and you very rarely get out of it. So will they be enough to be at minimum 17th? Every chance, but another couple of games, and I think they're just stuck there, unfortunately, till the end.
Yeah, I might regret losing Danny Ings, wouldn't they?
But that's what I'm going to say. I think that the strikers that they got in with Shea Adams and Armstrong, I just don't think they cut it. I think there was I think they needed to look for that bargain one in Europe somewhere that maybe was doing the business somewhere else, because I just don't see it in Armstrong, and I didn't see it before when I was watching them either. So, okay, today's big game, the Arsenal versus Spurs, Neil. Unbelievable victory for Arsenal. They've starting to turn things around.
Yeah,
but it is against a Spurs side who are slightly falling apart.
Yeah, Spurs are in a bad vein of form at the moment. Do you know what it is? They were saying as soon as wouldn't shut up about it on Sky Sports today, but the Spurs body language you can read from the TV. It really is poor. Dele Alli playing wide left or something today. I don't think they believe the shape that they were playing. I don't think Spurs. I don't think they have the belief. Maybe the Harry Kane saga kind of has hurt them a little bit, the dressing room and the morale. Yeah, and they were terrible in the first half, absolutely disgracefully terrible in the first half. Arsenal ran right over them. So on the flip side, Arsenal now, I think that's more or less Arsenal's best 11 on paper. They finally got Xhaka back, Thomas back. He's back from injury. Partnered him in there with Xhaka. They Smith Rowe and Saka pulling the strings. Loads of energy, loads of commitment, and the guy that we've been kind of putting a lot of blame on in the last few weeks, Aubameyang, actually turned up today, and he even turned up for the post-match interview when he was saluting the fans that were berating him 3 weeks ago. So all the boxes were ticked for Arsenal today. 3 good goals actually. Played some lovely football, helped by a really, really poor Spurs team, no doubt. But I don't think Arteta cared. It was like he won the Champions League today. I think he knows or feels they've turned a corner now. 3 wins on the bounce. Everything is great, and fair play to them. But I definitely think, we said it maybe 2 weeks ago, the combination of White and Gabriel in the back line, they Tierney back there, the 2 defensive holders, seems to be their best team to me anyway. So I'd be a bit more hopeful as an Arsenal fan, if he can get that 11 onto the field as much as he can, that they can push on from that.
Daniel Levy probably likes to think of himself as a shrewd guy, as a clever guy. A lot of people do talk about him that way, but I do wonder if he believes the hype himself. When you look back at the deal with Harry Kane, and he was looking to get the most he could for him, and then didn't want to let him go. Is he the biggest loser here? Because Harry Kane not performing this year doesn't add value to Harry Kane's price at the end of the year.
And he's, if we go with Souness's analogy of body language, he definitely seems disinterested. And even the goal where he slipped and tried to scramble his way back and stop it from happening, and Saka put it away. You said a player's name there who a better manager, in my opinion, than Nuno in Mourinho didn't want anything to do with Dele Alli, and he's back playing. I don't think it's a surprise that they're struggling if he's there. And it's in his name, poor old Eric Dyer, the likes of Skip, this new guy Emerson. Like, I could list 7 or 8 of the starting 11. Like, we have to get over the fact that Spurs aren't the Spurs from a few years ago, and even still, that was only for a season. Spurs are back to being. Actually, Spurs are just being Spurs again. Like, they had 1 or 2 fake years of being a top side, and the bubbles burst now at this stage. And even their main man, Kane, he knows it as well. He definitely knows it. And the way he's playing like a bit of a spoiled child. He definitely doesn't want to be there by the looks of it. And if he turns it around, fair play to him, but it'll be for one reason only, as to get out, in my opinion. Because I couldn't tell you where Spurs are going to be able to turn it around and be a side competing with Chelsea, Liverpool, City and United at this stage.
Yeah. Harry Kane, Neil, if you're in a job that you're not happy being in, if you're low morale, no matter how much you're getting paid, it's going to be very hard for you to perform at your best. That's what's going to happen here. That is what's happening here. And the worse the Spurs get, the worse that depression is going to, I suppose, be.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? I think for someone like Harry Kane and the service that he's given Spurs, and whatever happened in the summer, I don't know. Look, whether he got a gentleman's agreement last season to stay and then something blew up or not. But a football club, in order to run successfully, you have to have that harmony within the squad. Like, they're meeting each other every day, sometimes twice a day, for hours on end. You have to have a bond. You have to have a good team spirit. And it shows very, very quickly on the pitch. It's a team that has a team spirit that's fighting for each other, and a team that just doesn't give a rat's. And I think the contrast today came through the screen. It was absolutely apparent for everybody to see. Spurs looked disjointed, lack of trust. Even with the likes of Moura and Son and Kane on the field, you never felt for a second they were fighting for each other. Son is hugely suffering, but
yeah,
Kane is the one that takes the flack, because he's the golden boy, and he's been probably over-analysed as well. Maybe, look, he'll come good in a couple of weeks. But I think Dave hit the nail on the head. The worst thing for Harry Kane right now is the fact that he knows deep down he will win nothing with Spurs. He wanted out, clearly. He said he wanted out. And now he's more or less, I don't want to say he's been forced to stay where he is, because, you know, it's a terrible problem to pay 20 million a year and be forced to play football. But he wanted out. He wanted to go on and win things. And I'd say that burns when you're in that position, that you know the age you are, the profile you are. And like, he must be looking at Jack Grealish thinking, you're just one lucky swine that you got out the door, and here's me sitting here now with a shower of nobodies in the dressing room. It must burn him. So, you know, it's plain to see. Yeah, I mean, heart really bleeds for him, but it shows. It definitely shows in the whole, not even the body language, the whole club, the way the team performs at the moment. Nuno's got a big job in his hands to get that back going again.
Yeah, and I talk about the team, Dave. I'm just going to name out the team because, as you said, Nuno has a job in his hands. When you look at the team they have Lloris, who we've questioned and has been questions over him for a couple of years, as in his consistency. Tantanga at the back is not bad, but again, that's the third or fourth right full who they just can't get that position right. Sanchez and Dyer. I mean, Dyer wasn't a good midfielder. He's a worse centre back. Sanchez has only played well when he's had Alderweireld and Vertonghen in the back line. Reguilon at the back, probably the best out of the back four. Ndombele, hit and miss. Højbjerg is probably the best player that they've had for a while in the team. At least he does the job that he's asked to do. Ali, forget about it. Moura, hit and miss, as in he's more of an impact when he comes off the bench. Kane obviously in trouble, and Son is just a world-class player who's stuck in the middle of a big mess. But it's not even that, Dave. I'm looking at the bench. Emerson, they've taken in from Barcelona on the bench. Skip, Gil, Galini, Romero, Rondon, Davis, Lo Celso, Scarlett. Who in the hell have they got? You know, these are really in trouble.
Yeah. And then some. And your main man doesn't want to be there. So the guy who you're looking to help drag you to certain heights doesn't even want to be there either. Like, it's a recipe for disaster that Nuno will probably take the blame for as well. That poor guy will be gone by Christmas. So Levy doesn't mess about either. And they'll expect something different when the next guy come in and go, what's going on here? Do you drop Kane and go, listen, we need to start planning without him. So here, go on, off with you into the reserve, which he won't do either because he'll be desperate. So they're in a real mire. A real mire at the moment with where they're going to go, and it's like Nuno's going to have to try and pull something out of the bag because he's in trouble, even though I don't think he should be. To try and get any semblance of a half decent team who wants to be there and fight for the badge. Yeah,
and Daniel Levy has a lot to answer for. Neil, I'll just leave the last one with you because you've sent me a little message there. 200 million to reinvest in new players. You would have got a big sum if it was 120 or whatever it was for Harry Kane. You would have got a centre forward who wanted to play for the club. You probably would have got a couple of other players that Nuno wanted in. I'm sure that Nuno didn't get any players in that he wanted.
Look at what Villa did. Villa knew what was happening. They knew what was happening and said, right, we've 100 million. Let's start playing some fancy football here. And they brought in the players. And look what they did yesterday. Levy could have done that all year going, we're probably going to get about 100, 120 million. And then with what we're making now with the new ground, here's X amount, like what you said, 200 million. Let's get clever. Let's start playing around. And they haven't. They obviously didn't plan it through, or he obviously just thought he could hoodwink Kane into staying. And it's blown up in his face.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
they would have been there, Roy, even since Gareth Bale was left, and they tried to at least invest in Gareth Bale money. They didn't even make an attempt to try and sell Kane and get money and get players in, and that might come back to haunt them.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank God we're not a Spurs fan. Okay.
Or Norwich.
Norwich.
Sorry, Norwich.
I don't know which one is more painful. David, thanks very much. Neil, thanks very much. And everyone who watched in, thanks very much. And we'll see you again